The Discovery the coffee shop on 5th Street had always been David's sanctuary. Between his shifts at the observatory and his late-night research into ancient symbols, he found peace in the familiar hum of conversations and the scent of freshly ground beans. Today felt different, though. The autumn rain drummed against the windows while he sketched the mysterious symbol that had appeared in his dreams for months. The symbol was unlike anything in his archaeological databases. It resembled a spiral galaxy with 3 interconnected circles at its center, each containing what looked like a different constellation. David had drawn it hundreds of times, each attempt revealing new details that seemed to emerge from his subconscious memory. "Excuse me," a soft voice interrupted his concentration. "Is this seat taken?" David looked up to see a woman with the most unusual eyes he had ever encountered. They were violet, almost luminescent, and seemed to hold depths that reminded him of distant nebulae. Her dark hair fell in waves past her shoulders, and there was something otherworldly about the way she moved, as if she were floating rather than walking. "Please sit," David said, quickly closing his sketchbook. Something about her presence made his heart race in a way that had nothing to do with attraction, though she was undeniably beautiful. It was more like recognition, as if some part of him had been waiting for this moment. The woman introduced herself as Zara, and her accent was unlike any David had heard before. It had musical qualities that made ordinary words sound like poetry. She ordered tea that she barely touched, instead studying David with an intensity that should have made him uncomfortable, but somehow felt natural. "You're an astronomer," she observed, noticing his observatory badge. "Astronomer by day, amateur archaeologist by night," David replied. "I study ancient symbols and their connections to astronomy." "It's probably boring to most people." Zara's expression changed dramatically. "Ancient symbols? Could you show me?" Something in her voice made David's hand tremble as he reopened his sketchbook. The moment Zara saw the symbol, she gasped audibly. Her violet eyes widened, and she unconsciously placed her hand over her left shoulder. "Where did you learn to draw this?" she whispered. "I've been dreaming about it for months. It just appears in my mind, fully formed. I've never seen anything like it in any historical texts or databases." David leaned forward. "Do you recognize it?" Instead of answering, Zara slowly rolled up the sleeve of her sweater. David's breath caught in his throat. There, tattooed in what looked like silver ink that seemed to pulse with its own light, was the exact symbol from his dreams. Every detail was perfect, down to the smallest stellar formations within the circles. "This is impossible," David breathed. "I've never seen your tattoo before, yet I've been drawing this symbol for months." Zara's eyes filled with tears that seemed to shimmer like starlight. "You really don't remember, do you? The connection we share transcends time and space. This symbol is not just a mark, David. It's a beacon, a promise, a way for souls to find each other across the vast darkness of the universe." The coffee shop seemed to fade around them as David stared at the glowing symbol on her skin. His own left shoulder began to tingle, a sensation he had experienced in his dreams, but never while awake. "I think," Zara said softly, "it's time you knew the truth about who you really are and why I've traveled so far to find you." The revelation David's apartment had never felt smaller. Zara sat on his couch, her otherworldly presence making his familiar surroundings seem suddenly alien. The symbol on her shoulder continued to pulse with that strange silver light, and David found himself unconsciously rubbing his own left shoulder, where a matching tingling sensation had been growing stronger. "Before I tell you everything, Zara," said her voice carrying that musical quality that made his heart skip, "I need you to see something." She reached into her purse and pulled out what looked like a smartphone, but its surface was made of some crystalline material that seemed to bend light around it. When she activated it, holographic images filled the space between them, David watched in amazement as the projection showed a planet unlike Earth. Two suns hung in a lavender sky, casting long shadows across cities that seemed to grow from the yaw, ground like living crystal formations. The inhabitants moved with the same floating grace as Zara, their skin bearing various patterns of luminescent tattoos. "This is Kepler 442b, Zara explained. "My home world. We call it Etheria. My people are known as the Luminar, and we've been watching Earth for centuries." "Watching us? Why?" David asked, though part of him already suspected the answer. "Because we're connected to humanity in ways your scientists are only beginning to understand. Long ago, before your recorded history, some of our people came to Earth. They weren't invaders or conquerors. They were explorers, scientists, and some were refugees from a civil war that nearly destroyed our world." The hologram shifted, showing images of ancient Earth. David gasped as he recognized symbols from various archaeological sites, all containing elements similar to the mark on Zara's shoulder. The Luminar who came to Earth didn't just observe. Some of them fell in love with humans. They had children, creating a genetic line that carries both human and Luminar DNA. These children appeared completely human, but they carried something special in their genetic code. David's shoulder was burning now, and he could see a faint glow beginning to show through his shirt. "The symbol," he whispered. "The symbol appears when someone with Luminar heritage reaches emotional or spiritual maturity. It's dormant until that person encounters their true genetic match, another person who carries the same ancient bloodline." Zara's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "David, you're not entirely human. You're part Luminar, and you're my genetic match." The implications hit David like a tidal wave. "That's why I've been dreaming about the symbol. That's why I've always felt different. Why I've been drawn to the stars. Your dreams aren't just dreams. They're genetic memories awakening. The reason you became an astronomer isn't coincidence. Your Luminar heritage has been calling you to look up a sky, searching for home." David stood up abruptly, pulling off his shirt. There, on his left shoulder, was the same symbol as Zara's, glowing with the same silver light. But his looked incomplete, as if it were waiting for something. "When genetic matches find each other," Zara continued, "their symbols complete each other. Watch." She stood and moved closer to David. As the distance between them decreased, both symbols began to glow brighter. When Zara placed her hand on David's shoulder, directly over his symbol, something extraordinary happened. The two symbols seemed to merge, creating a bridge of light between them. David felt a rush of emotions, memories, and sensations that weren't his own. He saw Zara's childhood on Etheria, her training as a genetic tracker, her years of searching for him across the galaxy. "I've been looking for you for 5 years," she whispered, "following the genetic resonance that led me to Earth, to this city, to that coffee shop." David felt tears streaming down his face. "I've been waiting for you my whole life without knowing it." But even as they shared this moment of connection, David sensed something else in Zara's memories. Fear, urgency, danger. "There's something else, isn't there?" he asked. "Something you haven't told me." Zara's expression darkened. "We're not the only ones who know about the genetic matches. There are others who want to use people like us for their own purposes. David, we're in danger." The threat the next morning brought an unexpected visitor. David was making breakfast when a sharp knock echoed through his apartment. Through the peephole, he saw a man in a black suit with eyes that seemed too pale, too knowing. "David Morrison?" the man asked when David opened the door. "Agent Harrison, Department of Extraterrestrial Affairs. I need to speak with you about your recent contact with a non-terrestrial entity." David's blood ran cold. Zara was still asleep in his bedroom, having stayed the night after their emotional revelation. "I'm sorry, but I don't know what you're talking about. Agent Harrison smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Mr. Morrison, we've been monitoring unusual electromagnetic signatures in this area. Signatures that match those of a luminar communication device. We know she's here. How do you know about the luminar? David demanded. The Department of Extraterrestrial Affairs has been aware of the luminar presence for decades. We've been tracking their genetic descendants on Earth, waiting for the symbols to activate. You and your friend represent a significant security risk. Before David could respond, he heard Zara moving in the bedroom. Her voice, tight with fear, called out, "David, we need to leave." Now, Agent Harrison's expression hardened. "I'm afraid that won't be possible. You're both coming with us." That's when David noticed the other agents positioned around his building. Through the windows, he could see black vehicles surrounding the area. They were trapped. Zara appeared at his shoulder, already dressed and carrying her crystalline device. "The temporal resonance chamber," she whispered to David. "We need to reach it." "What temporal resonance chamber?" David asked. "Every major city on Earth has one. They're disguised as normal buildings, but they're actually emergency shelters built by the first luminar visitors. There's one downtown, hidden beneath the old courthouse." Agent Harrison pulled out what looked like a standard-issue pistol, but David could see modifications that suggested it was designed for non-human targets. "I really must insist that you come with us. The department has questions about your abilities, and we need to conduct some tests." "Tests?" David felt his symbol beginning to glow beneath his shirt. "What kind of tests?" "The kind that will help U.S. understand how to replicate the genetic modifications. Imagine the applications for human enhancement, space exploration, military operations. You could help us unlock the next stage of human evolution." Zara's eyes flashed with anger. "You want to weaponize us? That's exactly what destroyed my world the first time." "Your world recovered," Harrison said. "Ours is still struggling to reach the stars. We need every advantage we can get." David realized that the Department of Extraterrestrial Affairs wasn't interested in protecting Earth from aliens. They wanted to exploit alien technology and genetics for their own purposes. He and Zara weren't just special. They were valuable resources. "The escape route," Zara whispered, pointing to his bedroom window. "There's a fire escape that leads to the roof. From there, we can use the emergency beacon to call for help." "Help from who?" David asked. "Other luminars still on Earth. We're not the only genetic match that's been activated recently. There's a network of people like us, and they're watching for situations exactly like this." Agent Harrison was growing impatient. "You have 30 seconds to decide. Come with us willingly, or we'll take you by force. Either way, you're coming with us." David looked at Zara, seeing his own determination reflected in her violet eyes. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. The symbol on his shoulder was burning with intensity now, and he could feel power flowing through him that he'd never experienced before. "I choose option 3, David said. "There is no option 3, Harrison replied. David smiled, feeling the luminar heritage awakening fully in his veins. "There is now." The symbols on both their shoulders erupted with light, and the entire apartment was suddenly filled with energy that made the air itself sing with power. The escape burst of energy from their symbols shorted out every electronic device in the apartment. Agent Harrison's weapon sparked and died in his hands, while his communication equipment emitted a high-pitched whine before going silent. The power grid for the entire block flickered and stabilized. "Run!" Zara shouted. Grabbing David's hand, they sprinted toward the bedroom as Harrison shouted orders into his dead radio. Behind them, David could hear the sound of boots on the stairs as more agents entered the building. The fire escape window was their only chance. David had never been athletic, But something had changed in him since his symbol activated. He moved, with newfound grace and speed, following Zara as she practically flew up the fire escape toward the roof. His enhanced senses could detect the agents below, their frustration and confusion as their high-tech equipment continued to malfunction. The symbols create an electromagnetic field when they're active, Zara explained as they reached the roof. It's a defense mechanism that disrupts most electronic surveillance and weapons. The city spread out below them in the early morning light. David could see the courthouse in the distance, its classical architecture hiding secrets that spanned centuries. But between them and their destination, light vehicles were converging from all directions. Zara activated her crystalline device, and a holographic map appeared in the air between them. "The temporal resonance chamber is here," she said, pointing to a spot beneath the courthouse. "But the direct route is blocked." "Then we'll find another way," David said, surprised by his own confidence. That's when they heard it. A sound like singing crystal carried on the wind. Both of their symbols pulsed in response, and David felt a wave of warmth and recognition wash over him. "The others," Zara breathed. "They're here." 3 figures appeared on the adjacent rooftop, moving with the same ethereal grace as Zara. They were clearly human, but there was something otherworldly about them that spoke of lunar heritage. Their symbols were glowing beneath their clothes, creating patches of light that pulsed in rhythm with David and Zara's. "Genetic matches," the lead figure called out. "We sensed your activation. Are you safe?" "For now," David replied. "But we need to reach the resonance chamber." The woman smiled, and David could see that her eyes held the same violet depths as Zara's. "We know. The network has been preparing for this day. The Department of Extraterrestrial Affairs has been hunting us for months, but they don't understand what they're dealing with." "What do you mean?" David asked. "They think we're just enhanced humans with useful abilities. They don't realize that when genetic matches come together, we become something more, something that can bridge the gap between Earth and Etheria." Zara's expression was troubled. The bridge was never meant to be forced. It has to happen naturally, with consent and understanding. If the department tries to weaponize it, they could tear a hole in space-time itself, the woman finished. "That's why we're here. To make sure the bridge is built the right way." David felt a surge of responsibility. He was part of something much larger than a simple love story between 2 people from different worlds. The genetic matches weren't just about personal connection. They were about the future relationship between humanity and the Luminar. "How do we stop them?" he asked. "We complete the bridge," Zara said firmly. "We show them what true cooperation between our species looks like, but we have to reach the resonance chamber first." The sound of helicopters approaching made them all look up. The Department of Extraterrestrial Affairs was bringing in serious firepower. "Time to go," the lead figure said. "Everyone link hands. We're going to show these government agents what happens when genetic matches work together." David took Zara's hand on one side and reached for the stranger's hand on the other. The moment their circuit was complete, the world around them began to shimmer and bend. The symbols on all their shoulders erupted with light that seemed to tear holes in reality itself. "Hold on," Zara whispered. Interdimensional transport can be disorienting the first time. David felt himself being pulled through space and time, his consciousness expanding to encompass multiple realities at once. For a brief moment, he could see Etheria and Earth simultaneously, understanding how the 2 worlds were connected by threads of light that spanned the galaxy. When the sensation ended, they were standing in a vast underground chamber beneath. The courthouse. Ancient luminar technology hummed around them, and David realized they had just experienced something that would change everything. To bridge the temporal resonance chamber was unlike anything David had ever imagined. The walls were covered in the same crystalline formations he had seen in Zara's holographic images of Ethiary. But these had been growing for centuries, adapting to Earth's electromagnetic field. The symbol that had appeared on his shoulder was carved into every surface, sometimes alone, sometimes as part of larger patterns that seemed to tell a story. "This is beautiful," David whispered, his voice echoing. "In the vast space." "It's also powerful," Zara replied. "This chamber was built by the first luminar visitors as a communication hub. From here, we can contact my people on Ethiria and arrange for proper first contact." The other genetic matches had spread throughout the chamber, each one activating different sections of the ancient technology. David watched in amazement as their symbols synchronized, creating a network of light that pulsed through the crystalline walls. "The bridge isn't just about us," the lead figure explained. "Every genetic match that's been activated is part of a larger pattern. We're nodes in a communication network that spans the galaxy." David felt his understanding expanding. "That's why the Department of Extraterrestrial Affairs is so interested in us. They want to use this network for their own purposes." "But it won't work that way," Zara said firmly. "The network only functions when it's powered by genuine emotional connection. Love, trust, understanding. You can't force or fake that." Above them, David could hear the sound of drilling and excavation. The department had found the chamber and was trying to break in. Time was running out. "We need to complete the bridge now," Zara said, "before they can interfere." She led David to the center of the chamber, where a raised platform held what looked like a pool of liquid starlight. The other genetic matches formed a circle around them, their symbols creating a crown of light in the ancient space. "When we step into the pool together," Zara explained, "our connection will be amplified by the resonance chamber. It will create a permanent link between Earth and Ethiria, allowing for peaceful communication and cooperation." David looked into her violet eyes and saw not just love, but hope for the future of both their species. "What happens to us?" "We become ambassadors, bridge builders, the first of many who will help our worlds understand each other." The sound of drilling was getting closer. David could hear Agent Harrison's voice echoing through the tunnels, ordering his men to hurry. "Are you ready?" Zara asked. David thought about his life before meeting her. The loneliness, the sense of searching for something he couldn't name, the dreams that had haunted him for months. Now he understood that everything had been leading to this moment. "I've been ready my whole life," he said. They stepped into the pool together, and David felt the liquid starlight flowing around them like warm honey. Their symbols blazed with light that seemed to reach directly into his soul, and suddenly he was connected not just to Zara, but to every luminar across the galaxy. He saw Ethiria through 1,000 different eyes, felt the hopes and fears of Va, an entire civilization that had been waiting for this moment. He understood that the civil war that had driven the first luminar to Earth had been about this very issue, whether to reach out to other species or remain isolated. The bridge completed itself with a sound like cosmic thunder. Above them, the courthouse began to glow with the same silver light as their symbols. Similar buildings in cities around the world were activating, creating a network of communication hubs that would allow for unprecedented cooperation between the two species. Agent Harrison and his team finally broke through just as the transformation was complete. They found David and Zara standing in the center of the chamber, no longer entirely human, but not fully luminar either. They had become something new, something that could exist in both worlds simultaneously. "Too late," Harrison said bitterly. "You've doomed humanity to alien influence." "No," David replied, his voice carrying harmonics that made the crystalline walls sing in response. "We've given humanity the stars." Through the bridge, ships from Ethiria were already responding to the activation signal. But they came not as conquerors or saviors, but as partners. The genetic matches had created exactly what the universe needed: a connection based on love and understanding rather than fear and exploitation. As David looked at Zara, her hand still in his, he realized that their story was just beginning. The symbol on his shoulder had been proof that love could transcend time and space. But now it was something more, a promise that the future would be built on connection rather than conquest. The bridge was complete, and the universe would never be the same.